Ezra English. Passive listening practice. You can turn these audios on while doing other things. Idiom series, topic animals.
To have a whale of a time. To have a whale of a time is an idiom that means to have a really great time, to enjoy oneself immensely. This expression is often used when describing a fun activity or a memorable event. Let's take a closer look at what this idiom means and how it can be used. The phrase "to have a whale of a time" likely originated in the mid-1800s. It was used to describe a really big and enjoyable event, such as a large party or festival. The idiom has evolved to mean any fun and exciting activity or event. Imagine you are going on a trip to an amusement park with your friends. You are all excited to go on the rides and play games. You might say to your friends, "I'm so excited for today. We're going to have a whale of a time." This means that you are expecting to have a lot of fun and enjoy the day to the fullest. Or let's say you are invited to a friend's wedding. You might say to your family, "I can't wait for the wedding. I know we're going to have a whale of a time dancing and celebrating." This shows that you are anticipating a really enjoyable time with your friends and family. This idiom can also be used to describe a memorable experience or moment. For example, imagine you took a trip to a beautiful island and had a great time exploring the beaches and trying new foods. You could say, "I had a whale of a time on my vacation. I never wanted to leave." This shows that the experience was so enjoyable and memorable that you will always remember it fondly. It's important to note that "to have a whale of a time" is often used in a positive way, but it can also be used sarcastically or ironically. For instance, if someone were to attend a really boring meeting, they might say sarcastically, "Well, I had a whale of a time at that meeting." This indicates that they didn't enjoy the experience at all. In a nutshell, to have a whale of a time is a fun and expressive idiom that can be used to describe any enjoyable activity or memorable experience. It's a great way to show excitement and anticipation for an upcoming event or to reflect on a past experience. So, go out and have a whale of a time.
To hold your horses. To hold your horses is a popular idiom that means to slow down, wait, or be patient. The phrase originates from the practice of holding on to one's horse's reins to prevent it from galloping too quickly. This idiom can be used in various contexts, such as when someone is getting ahead of themselves or making hasty decisions without considering all the facts. Here are some examples to help illustrate the usage of the idiom "to hold your horses." 1. Situation. A group of friends are planning a road trip, and one friend is already making hotel reservations and booking activities before everyone has agreed on the final travel plan. Friend 1. "Hey guys, I found some great deals on hotels and activities for our trip next month. I'm going to book them now." Friend 2. "Hold your horses, friend 1. We haven't even decided on our route yet. Let's make sure we're all on the same page before we start making reservations." 2. Situation. A boss is pressuring an employee to finish a project quickly without considering the employee's workload and other responsibilities. "Boss, I need you to finish this project by the end of the day. It's urgent." Employee, Hold your horses, boss. I have several other tasks to complete today, and I need to make sure I prioritize my workload. Let's discuss a realistic deadline that takes all my tasks into account. 3. Situation. A student is eager to submit their assignment before the due date without taking the time to proofread and make corrections. Student, I'm finished with my assignment. I'm going to submit it now. Teacher, hold your horses, student. Remember to proofread your work before submitting. You don't want to lose marks for careless mistakes. As you can see from these examples, the idiom to hold your horses can be used in various situations when someone needs to slow down, be patient, or wait for more information before making decisions. It's important to take the time to consider all the facts and make informed decisions instead of rushing into things. This idiom can also be used in a light-hearted or playful manner, such as when someone is excited or eager about something and needs to be reminded to slow down or be patient. For example, Friend 1, I can't wait to see the new Marvel movie. I'm going to buy tickets right now. Friend 2, hold your horses, Friend 1. The movie doesn't come out for another month. Let's wait until closer to the release date to buy tickets. In conclusion, the idiom to hold your horses is a useful expression to remind people to slow down, be patient, and consider all the facts before making decisions. It's important to take the time to think things through and avoid rushing into things without considering all the consequences.
The elephant in the room. The idiom "the elephant in the room" refers to an issue or problem that is clearly present but not being openly discussed or acknowledged. It's often used to describe a situation where everyone is aware of the problem, but no one is willing to address it directly. Let's look at a few examples to help illustrate the use of this idiom. Example 1. Samantha was at a family gathering where her Uncle Tom was in attendance. Samantha noticed that her uncle looked different, like he had lost a significant amount of weight. Everyone at the gathering seemed to notice it too, but no one mentioned it. It was the elephant in the room. Finally, Samantha gathered the courage to ask her uncle if he was okay. It turned out he had been diagnosed with a serious illness, but didn't want to burden the family with his problems. Example 2. At work, there was an obvious tension between two of Samantha's colleagues, Jim and Sarah. No one was sure what the problem was, but it was obvious that something was wrong. During a team meeting, Samantha decided to address the elephant in the room and asked Jim and Sarah if everything was okay between them. They both admitted that they had a disagreement about a project, but were able to work it out after talking it through. Example 3. Samantha was at a friend's house for a party. Everyone was having a great time, except for one guest who seemed to be in a bad mood the whole night. No one wanted to ask him what was wrong because they didn't want to ruin the mood. However, his behavior was the elephant in the room. Finally, one of Samantha's friends asked the guest if everything was okay. It turned out he was going through a tough time at work and just needed someone to talk to. As you can see from these examples, the elephant in the room can be a difficult situation to address, but it's important to acknowledge it in order to resolve the issue. By ignoring the problem, it can lead to a buildup of tension and discomfort. It's better to address the problem head-on, even if it's uncomfortable at first. In summary, The idiom "the elephant in the room" refers to a situation or problem that is clearly present but not being discussed or acknowledged. It's important to address the issue in order to resolve any underlying tensions or discomfort. By acknowledging the elephant in the room, it can lead to a more open and honest conversation, ultimately resulting in a better outcome for all parties involved.
The lion's share. The idiom "the lion's share" means the largest or greatest portion of something. This idiom comes from the Aesop's fable "The Lion's Share," where a lion and 3 other animals go hunting together. After the hunt, the lion claims the largest share for himself, leaving the others with much smaller portions. In modern usage, the idiom is often used to describe a situation where one person or group receives the majority of something. For example, in a business deal, one person may receive the lion's share of the profits while the others receive much smaller amounts. Another example of using this idiom is when dividing a task or workload. If a group of people is working on a project and one person does the majority of the work, they can be said to have the lion's share of the responsibility. The idiom can also be used in a negative context, such as when referring to a situation where someone is being selfish or greedy. For example, if someone takes the lion's share of a dessert at a party, it could be seen as selfish and inconsiderate to the other guests. Additionally, the idiom can be used in a positive context, such as when referring to someone who has earned or deserves the majority of something. For instance, if a team of athletes wins a championship and one player scores the majority of the points, they could be said to have earned the lion's share of the victory. The origin of the idiom goes back to ancient times, where lions were considered the kings of the animal kingdom and symbolized strength, power, and dominance. Thus, the lion's share became synonymous with the largest and most significant portion of something. Overall, the lion's share is a commonly used idiom that English learners should be familiar with. It's important to understand its context and usage, as it can be used in both positive and negative contexts. By understanding this idiom, English learners can improve their language skills and better understand the nuances of the English language.
A pig in a poke. Have you ever heard the expression, "Don't buy a pig in a poke"? It means that you should not buy something without first seeing it or knowing what it is. The idiom comes from a time when people would buy livestock at markets without actually seeing the animal they were buying, and sometimes they would be tricked into buying a cat or other animal in a bag instead of a pig. Today, the expression is used to warn people against buying something without knowing what they are getting into. It could refer to anything from buying a used car without inspecting it first to signing a contract without reading the fine print. For example, let's say you are looking to buy a used car from a private seller. The seller tells you that the car is in great condition and offers to sell it to you for a very low price. However, they refuse to let you inspect the car or take it for a test drive. In this case, you might say that you are not willing to buy a pig in a poke, and that you need to inspect the car before making a decision. Similarly, you might use the idiom in a business context. For instance, if a company is trying to convince you to invest in their new product without providing any detailed information or evidence of its success, you might say that you are not willing to invest in a pig in a poke. You need to see more information and evidence before making a decision. In everyday life, you might use the expression to warn someone against taking risks without fully understanding the consequences. For example, If a friend is considering quitting their job to start a business without any clear plan or research, you might caution them against buying a pig in a poke. They need to carefully evaluate their options before making such a major decision. The idiom can also be used in the negative, as a warning to avoid being tricked or deceived. For example, if someone offers you a deal that seems too good to be true, you might say that you don't want to buy a pig in a poke. You need to know exactly what you are getting into before agreeing to anything. In summary, a pig in a poke is an idiom that warns against buying something without knowing what it is or fully understanding the consequences. It can be used in a variety of situations, from buying a used car to making a business decision. It's important to always be cautious and to make informed decisions based on clear information and evidence, rather than taking risks blindly.
Take the bull by the horns. To take the bull by the horns is an idiomatic expression that means to confront a problem or difficult situation with courage and determination. It is often used when there is a need to act decisively and take control of a situation, rather than avoiding it or waiting for someone else to take action. The origin of the phrase comes from bullfighting, where a matador is required to grab the bull's horns and wrestle it to the ground in order to demonstrate their bravery and skill. Taking the bull by the horns, therefore, is a metaphor for taking control of a situation and facing it head-on, much like a matador taking on a bull in the ring. Here are some examples of how this idiom can be used in everyday conversation. After months of procrastinating, Sarah finally decided to take the bull by the horns and confront her boss about the unfair treatment she was receiving at work. John knew he had to take the bull by the horns and start his own business if he wanted to be successful, so he quit his job and invested all his savings into his new venture. The government needs to take the bull by the horns and implement stricter regulations to curb the rising levels of pollution in the country. Mary was tired of waiting for her boyfriend to propose, so she took the bull by the horns and asked him to marry her instead. When the company faced financial difficulties, the CEO had to take the bull by the horns and make some tough decisions, including laying off some employees and cutting costs. In each of these examples, the speaker is acknowledging a difficult or uncomfortable situation and deciding to take action to confront it directly. Taking the bull by the horns requires courage, determination, and a willingness to face the consequences of one's actions. However, it's important to note that taking the bull by the horns doesn't necessarily mean acting impulsively or without careful consideration. In fact, it often requires careful planning and strategy to ensure the best possible outcome. Here are some additional examples of how this idiom can be used. Instead of avoiding the issue, Tom decided to take the bull by the horns and have an honest conversation with his wife about their marital problems. When faced with a difficult exam, Sarah knew she had to take the bull by the horns and study harder if she wanted to pass. The coach encouraged his team to take the bull by the horns and play aggressively in order to win the game. In order to get ahead in her career, Emily realized she needed to take the bull by the horns and start networking with industry leaders. When a crisis hit the company, the CEO took the bull by the horns and rallied her employees to work together to overcome the challenges they faced. Overall, taking the bull by the horns is a powerful idiom that encourages people to confront their problems head-on and take control of their lives. Whether it's in the workplace, in personal relationships, or in any other area of life. This expression reminds us that we have the power to face our challenges and emerge stronger and more resilient as a result.
A snake in the grass. The idiom "a snake in the grass" is used to describe someone who is deceptive or untrustworthy, particularly someone who is hiding their true intentions. It's a way of saying that there's someone around who can't be trusted, and you need to be careful. The phrase comes from the idea that a snake hiding in the grass can be difficult to see, and can strike without warning. In the same way, someone who is a snake in the grass can be difficult to identify and can cause harm without warning. One example of this idiom in action is in a workplace setting. Imagine you work in an office and there's a colleague who always seems to be doing things behind the scenes, but you can't quite put your finger on what they're up to. You might say to a coworker, "I don't trust that person, I think they might be a snake in the grass." Another example might be in a personal relationship. You might have a friend who seems very friendly and trustworthy, but later you find out that they've been talking behind your back or trying to sabotage your other relationships. You might say to another friend, "I thought she was a good person, but it turns out she's a snake in the grass." It's important to note that the phrase is not just used to describe someone who is intentionally malicious or harmful. Sometimes people can be a snake in the grass without even realizing it. For example, someone might make promises they can't keep or not follow through on something they said they would do, causing harm or disappointment to others. This idiom can also be used in a more metaphorical sense, beyond just describing a person. For example, imagine you're in a business deal and there are some hidden risks or factors that could harm your company's reputation or bottom line. You might say that there are snakes in the grass that need to be identified and dealt with before moving forward with the deal. It's important to be aware of snakes in the grass in all areas of life, whether it's in personal relationships, work situations, or even just everyday interactions. Learning to identify people or situations that may be deceptive or untrustworthy can help protect you from harm and make better decisions. In order to avoid falling prey to a snake in the grass, it's important to be observant and pay attention to people's actions and words. Don't just take things at face value, and be willing to question people's motives if something seems off. It's also important to trust your instincts and not ignore warning signs, even if someone seems friendly or trustworthy on the surface. In conclusion, a snake in the grass is a common idiom used to describe someone who is deceptive or untrustworthy, particularly someone who is hiding their true intentions. It's important to be aware of this type of person in all areas of life and learn to identify warning signs before they can cause harm. By being observant, questioning people's motives, and trusting your instincts, you can protect yourself from potential snakes in the grass and make better decisions in all areas of life.
Have butterflies in one's stomach. To have butterflies in one's stomach is a common idiom used to describe feeling nervous or anxious, particularly in situations where one is about to do something important or is anticipating a big event. This expression is often used in social situations, such as before a first date or a public speaking engagement, but it can also be used in other contexts, such as before a job interview or an important exam. The origins of this idiom are unclear, but it is thought to have originated from the fluttery feeling that one might experience in the stomach when feeling nervous or anxious. This sensation is often described as a butterfly sensation, hence the name of the idiom. One common example of when someone might have butterflies in their stomach is before a first date. Imagine that you've been talking to someone you like for a while and have finally arranged to meet up for a dinner date. As the date approaches, you might start to feel nervous and jittery. You might experience sweaty palms, a racing heart, or a feeling of nausea in your stomach. All of these physical symptoms are indicative of having butterflies in your stomach. Another example is before a job interview. Even the most confident and experienced job seekers can experience nervousness and anxiety before an important interview. They might worry about making a good impression, answering questions correctly, or being able to think on their feet. These worries can manifest as butterflies in their stomach, which can make it difficult to focus and perform well during the interview. Students may also experience butterflies in their stomach before an important exam, particularly if the exam is a high-stakes one, such as a final exam or an entrance exam for college or graduate school. The pressure to perform well can lead to nervousness and anxiety, which can make it difficult to focus and recall the information studied. There are many different ways to deal with butterflies in your stomach, depending on the situation and the individual. Some people find that taking deep breaths, practicing relaxation techniques such as meditation or yoga, or visualizing a positive outcome can help calm their nerves. Others might distract themselves with a relaxing activity, such as listening to music or taking a walk. It's important to remember that having butterflies in your stomach is a normal and natural response to stressful or important situations. It doesn't mean that you are not capable of handling the situation or that you are not prepared. It simply means that you care about the outcome and are invested in doing your best. In short, to have butterflies in one's stomach is a common idiom used to describe feeling nervous or anxious before an important event or situation. This sensation is often described as a fluttery feeling in the stomach, and it can manifest as a variety of physical symptoms. While it can be uncomfortable, it is a normal and natural response to stress and does not indicate a lack of preparedness or capability. There are many different ways to manage and cope with these feelings, including deep breathing, relaxation techniques, and positive visualization.
This is the end of Part 2, Idiom Series, Topic, Animals. Let's wait for the next part. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe for more content like this. Have fun learning English with Ezra English.